You ever have a moment where the whole world tilts beneath your feet, like someone's pulled the ground out from under you and you're just standing there, suspended, unsure if you're falling or floating? My wife was staring at a photo of our daughter. Just staring, in complete silence, and I knew something was wrong because Claire never just stared like that. She was always in motion, always humming under her breath or tapping her fingers against the countertop, but now she was still, the kind of still that makes you feel like something terrible is about to happen. "Claire?" I asked, walking into the living room, setting my coffee down without taking a sip. "You okay?" She didn't look up. Just said, quiet and slow, "I never noticed it before." The mole on her shoulder. "It's just like yours." My heart didn't skip a beat, it stopped completely. I forced a little laugh, tried to keep my voice steady. "Lots of people have moles, babe. Coincidences happen." She finally turned to look at me, and her eyes weren't angry, not yet, but they were searching. Deep, careful, deliberate. "And her eyes," she said. "That same hazel green with the little speck in the left one. Just like yours." Her smile too. "It's not even the same as mine or my mother's or anyone. It's yours, Thomas." I stood there, pretending like I didn't hear what I heard, trying to defuse something that was already too late to stop. "Claire," I said, walking over to her, "you're seeing patterns because you love her. She's ours now. That's what matters, right?" She just looked at me, and I knew, she wasn't going to let it go. That night, she didn't say another word about it. We had dinner, tucked Lily into bed, and watched a documentary on the couch with our legs intertwined like everything was fine. But her body wasn't warm next to mine. She was thinking. Turning something over in her mind. Planning. I didn't know then that she'd already ordered a DNA kit. The test results came a week later. I came home from work to find the envelope torn open on the kitchen counter and Claire sitting at the table, hands folded, a glass of wine untouched beside her. "I need to ask you something," she said without looking up. My mouth went dry. "Sure. Is Lily yours?" Her voice was calm, steady, terrifying in how composed it was. I swallowed. Tried to lie. Couldn't. "How long have you known?" I asked instead, quietly. She looked up. The second I saw the results. "She's yours, Tom. She's your biological daughter. And I want to know how that's even possible." I pulled out the chair across from her and sat down slowly, feeling the weight of 10,000 bricks settle on my chest. "She is ours, Claire. She was always meant to be ours." "That's not what I asked," she said sharply. "I asked how she's yours." And that was the moment I realized there was no turning back. It started 5 years ago. Claire and I had been trying to have a baby for 2 years. Month after month, tracking her cycle, scheduling doctor appointments, taking vitamins, acupuncture, meditation, even cutting caffeine. Nothing worked. We tried IUI. We tried IVF. Twice. The second time left her in so much pain she couldn't walk for days. And still, nothing. The doctor told us, gently, that the problem wasn't me. It was her. Her eggs were no longer viable. I remember the look on her face in that office, like someone had reached into her chest and ripped out her sense of womanhood. She barely spoke for weeks after. I held her, told her none of this mattered, that I loved her with or without children, that we could adopt, we still had options. But I knew. Deep down, I knew how much she wanted to carry a baby. To feel it grow. To be part of that miracle. She said no to adoption, at first. Said she didn't want a child that wasn't ours. She cried in the dark, when she thought I was asleep, whispering apologies to a future that would never be. I should have waited. I should have let her grieve. But I was grieving too, and grief makes people do stupid things. I started looking into surrogacy on my own. Quietly. I didn't tell her, I knew she'd say no. Knew she'd feel betrayed. But I didn't want to let go of the dream. Not yet. My grandfather had passed away recently, and I'd been going back and forth from his old property, helping sort through his belongings. That's where I met Sandra. She was a caretaker, mid-20s, gentle and sweet, but strong. She was there for the last 6 months of his life, taking care of everything when I couldn't. We got to talking one day about life and family, and I must have said something about trying for a baby, because she told me she'd once thought about being a surrogate. It started out as a hypothetical. Then a conversation. Then paperwork. Then a donation at a clinic in a city 2 hours away. Everything legal. Clean. Quiet. And 9 months later, Lily was born. I didn't tell Claire. I told her I'd found a little girl, abandoned and in need, at the home. That the family had passed on her. That the staff was desperate to find someone before she was sent off to the state system. It was partly true. But not all true. Claire took one look at Lily and fell in love. She said it was fate. That something about her felt right. And I smiled, held her hand, and said nothing. Now here we were, 4 years later, sitting across the table from each other like strangers, and the woman I loved more than life itself was looking at me like I'd just torn her world in two. "So you lied," she said softly. "You lied to me about everything." "I didn't lie," I said. I couldn't tell you. You were breaking apart, Claire. I thought this would fix it." "Fix it," she repeated, her voice rising for the first time. "You went behind my back, used a surrogate, and brought home a child that you created without telling me, and you thought that would fix me." "She's yours too," I said, louder than I meant to. "You raised her. You loved her from the moment you saw her. She is as much yours as she is mine." "But I didn't get to choose, Tom," she snapped. "You took away my choice." Claire stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the tile floor. She didn't flinch at the noise, didn't even seem to hear it. Her eyes were glassy now, but not with tears. With anger. Shock. Betrayal. Emotions so tightly wound that even she couldn't tell which was which. "I would have rather stayed childless," she said, voice shaking, "than be lied to like this." My instinct was to reach for her, to tell her it wasn't a lie, not really, just a choice made out of love, out of hope. But when I moved, she stepped back like I was something toxic. And maybe I was. "You don't mean that," I whispered. "You don't mean it, Claire. You love her. You love Lily." "That's the worst part," she said, pressing her hands against her temples. "I do. I love her like she's mine. Like I carried her inside me. I would die for her. And now I find out she's your secret. Some science project you ran behind my back like I wasn't even part of the equation." I lowered my head. "You were part of it. You were the reason for it. I didn't do this to you. I did it for us." "Don't you dare," she hissed, "don't you dare make this about love. Love is trust. Love is honesty. Love is not deciding to create a child with another woman and pretending it's a blessing from the sky." The room was so quiet I could hear the fridge hum. I wanted to rewind time. Just to one moment, maybe when Sandra had agreed to carry the baby. Or even earlier, when Claire first broke down on our bathroom floor, clutching the negative test like it was a death sentence. I wanted to go back and just talk to her. Open the conversation. Take the chance, even if it ended with her hating the idea. But I didn't. And now we were here. "You could have told me," she whispered. "Even just once. You could have sat me down and said, 'Claire, I'm scared. I want a baby so badly I can't breathe at night. Can we please talk about another way?' And maybe I would have said no, maybe I would have screamed at you. But at least I'd still be your partner. Your equal. Not some woman you needed to shield from reality. I thought I was protecting you." Her laugh was dry and bitter. "You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself from my pain." That one hit. I didn't answer. She walked to the window then, her arms folded across her chest, like she was holding herself together piece by piece. "I've been thinking about those early days," she said suddenly. "How she cried when you left the room. How she always calmed faster with you than with me." I chalked it up to personality. "But it's biology, isn't it? You were never a stranger to her." "She was a newborn," I said, weakly. "Babies cry for 100 reasons." "Don't lie anymore," she snapped, without turning around. "I know the truth now." We sat in silence after that, the distance between us wider than I'd ever felt in my life. Finally, she turned to me. "Where is the surrogate now?" I blinked. "Sandra. She moved. She left the state after Lily was born. That was part of the agreement, no contact, no confusion. Clean break. She didn't want to be part of Lily's life. No. She was paid well. She was clear from the beginning, she was doing it for the money. Not out of sentiment." Claire nodded, slowly. "So just me, then. I'm the only one who didn't know what she was signing up for." "Claire, please." "No," she interrupted, holding up her hand. "I need space. I need to think. And I don't want you near me while I do it." That stung worse than I expected. "What about Lily?" She paused. "She's not the problem. You are. I'll explain something to her, gently. But tonight, I'm sleeping in the guest room. And tomorrow, you're taking the couch. Until I figure out what I'm going to do with this." She walked past me then, not touching me, not even looking at me. And I sat there in the dim light of our kitchen, trying to hold myself together while the woman I built my life with drifted away, inch by inch, breath by breath. The days that followed were mechanical. We kept Lily on her routine, school, cartoons, dinner, bedtime stories, like nothing had changed. But everything had. Claire didn't look me in the eye. She spoke only when necessary. I watched her retreat into herself, watched her pick at dinner, watched her trace the rim of her wine glass with her finger over and over like it was the only thing grounding her. One night, I found her sitting in Lily's room after she'd fallen asleep. She was just staring down at her, brushing her hair back with trembling fingers. "She looks so peaceful," Claire whispered. "So innocent. She doesn't know what kind of web she's in." "She's not in a web," I said softly. "She's in a family. A messy one, maybe. But she's loved." Claire didn't answer. She leaned down, kissed Lily's forehead, and left the room without another word. Then came the real twist. 3 days later, I got a call from Sandra. I hadn't heard from her in over 4 years. Her number had changed, so when I saw the unknown area code, I almost didn't pick up. "Tom," she said, her voice strained. "I know I promised no contact, but something's happened." My heart dropped. "Is it Lily?" "No," she said. "It's me. I have breast cancer. Aggressive. Stage 3. I don't have family, and they're recommending I look into possible genetic links. I need to know, does your wife know Lily's origin?" My throat tightened. "She knows." "Okay," Sandra said, exhaling. "I'm sorry to break the agreement, but I thought if something happens to me, Lily might need this medical history someday." We talked for a few minutes more. I thanked her for calling. And then I sat there, holding the phone, staring into the darkness of our living room, realizing that this thing I thought I had complete control over, this secret I had wrapped in silence and locked away, was cracking at the edges. And Claire wasn't the only one living in the aftershock. That night, I told her about the call. About Sandra. About the cancer. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then, quietly, "So now she has a second mother, and she's dying." "She was never her mother," I said. "You are." Claire looked at me then, really looked at me, like she was seeing something she didn't know how to categorize. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she whispered. "But I still love her. And that has to count for something." I thought that once Claire said she still loved Lily, maybe things would start to thaw between us. I clung to that sentence like it was a rope thrown to a man sinking in the ocean. But I didn't realize then, love can survive where trust has already drowned. And sometimes, what survives is just the memory of what once was. The next morning, she was gone early. Her side of the bed was cold. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter, just 3 lines. "Taking Lily to school. Don't wait up tonight. I need time. See." There was no anger in the words, no blame, just exhaustion. And something worse, distance. Not the kind you can measure in feet or miles, but the kind that starts inside a person when they begin to move on, even while still living in the same house. I went through the day like a ghost, barely functioning at work, my mind spiraling. I kept asking myself, had I broken something unfixable? Or was there still a way back? That night, I found myself staring at Lily's baby album. Photos from the hospital, from her first days at home. Claire smiling, holding Lily close. Me standing behind them, eyes shining. Back then, I believed we were on solid ground, building a life brick by brick, no cracks. But every secret is a crack, and eventually the ground shifts. Claire came home late, past midnight. I was still awake, sitting on the couch in the dark. She didn't speak at first. She just dropped her keys in the bowl by the door, slipped off her coat, and stood there, like she wasn't sure if she should come in or leave again. "I'm not seeing anyone," she said suddenly, like she needed to make it clear. "I'm just driving at night. Thinking. Listening to music that doesn't ask anything of me." I nodded. "You don't owe me an explanation." "No," she said, but I needed to say it. "For myself. So you know where I am." She came over, sat on the far end of the couch. We sat in silence for a long time, listening to the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of the house. "I read about her cancer," Claire said finally. "The survival rates aren't good." "No," I admitted. "They aren't." "Does she want to meet Lily? Say goodbye?" "I don't think so," I said. "She was never attached. She asked that we don't contact her again unless it's medical. She made her peace with it a long time ago." Claire turned to me slowly. "And you? Have you made peace with what you did?" That question hit me like a hammer. "I thought I did," I said. "For years, I believed I made the right choice. That bringing Lily into our lives was worth whatever lines I had to cross. But now, watching you pull away from me, I'm not so sure anymore." She looked down at her hands. "When I couldn't get pregnant, I felt broken," she said. "Like my body was failing you. Failing both of us. I remember praying at night, asking for just one chance. One miracle. But I never wanted a child at the cost of our integrity. At the cost of truth." I reached out, almost instinctively, but stopped myself. "What do I do now, Claire?" I asked, my voice low. "Tell me how to make this right." She shook her head. "There is no right. Not anymore. Just less wrong. And even that feels impossible." We sat like that until the sun began to rise, and she got up without another word and went upstairs. I stayed on the couch, feeling like the loneliest man in the world. 2 days later, something happened that changed the tone of everything. Claire got a call from Lily's school. There had been an incident. A little boy had shoved Lily on the playground, and she'd fallen hard, hitting her head. Nothing serious, thank God, just a scrape, but she was hysterical and asking for Mommy and Daddy together. We rushed to the school, and when we arrived, Lily was sitting on the nurse's table, holding an ice pack and sobbing. The moment she saw us together, she reached out with both arms like we were one person. In that moment, Claire didn't hesitate. She scooped Lily into her arms, whispering, "It's okay, baby, Mommy's here," and I put a hand on her back as we stood there like we always used to, a unit. It was the first time in weeks that Claire didn't pull away from my touch. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, Claire came into the kitchen while I was making tea. She didn't say anything at first. Just leaned against the counter, watching me. She was so scared, she said softly. "I know," I said. She wanted both of us. Not one or the other. Not me angry and you ashamed. I turned toward her, hopeful. "Claire. I'm not saying I forgive you," she cut in gently. "I'm saying, maybe Lily deserves for us to try." That was the beginning of something. Not a fix. Not a clean slate. But a decision to stay in the same room and try to build something new from the ashes of what had burned. Over the next few weeks, we went to couples counseling. We talked about the betrayal. About the deception. About the loneliness we both felt, hers in silence, mine in secrecy. There were days when we couldn't get through a session without crying, and days when we left feeling more angry than when we walked in. But there were also moments. Glimpses. Like when we laughed at something Lily said. Or when Claire found an old photo of us from our honeymoon and left it on my nightstand without a word. Little stitches on a wound that still ached but was no longer bleeding. One night, Claire sat across from me after Lily had gone to bed. Her face was tired but softer than before. "You know what the hardest part is," she said. I shook my head. "I don't know if I can ever see her, Lily, and not think about the lie. It's not her fault. She's perfect. But every time I look at her, I see you, and I remember what you did." I swallowed hard. "I understand. But," she added, "I also see me. In the way she colors outside the lines. In the way she hums when she's scared. I don't know if it's nurture or fate, but she is mine. Maybe not by biology. But in every other way." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My chest was too tight. Then she leaned forward, looked me right in the eye. "I'm still here, Tom," she said. "But don't mistake that for healing. Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting." "I know," I whispered. She stood, turned to leave, then paused. "But I'm trying." And just like that, 2 words, I felt the faintest spark of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope is a fragile thing. It doesn't roar like anger or wail like grief. It whispers. It shows up in the quietest places, in the way she let her shoulder brush mine while brushing her teeth, or how she handed me a folded t-shirt I forgot in the dryer. No words, no grand gestures. Just space. Shared space. And in that space, I started noticing the things I used to take for granted. The way Claire would curl her fingers into her sleeves when she was anxious. How she always checked Lily's room twice at night, just to be sure the window was locked. The way she smelled like chamomile and clean linen when she stepped out of the shower. We weren't back to normal, not even close, but something had changed. The ice wasn't gone, but it was thinning. One evening, we were putting Lily to bed together. She was asking her usual million bedtime questions. Why do stars twinkle? Do birds have dreams? And then, out of nowhere, she looked up at me and said, "Daddy, do I have your eyes because I came from your tummy too?" Claire froze. I knelt down beside Lily's bed, forcing a smile. "No, sweetheart. You came from someone else's tummy, but you're all ours now." Lily frowned. "But we match." "We do," I said, brushing her hair back. "And sometimes love makes magic like that." Claire turned away, and I could tell that even now, even after everything we'd processed, Lily's resemblance to me still stabbed something inside her. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Claire was standing by the window in the kitchen, arms crossed, her silhouette outlined in moonlight. I stood behind her, not touching, just close. "She's going to ask more questions as she gets older," Claire said. "And I don't know if I'll always know what to say." "I don't either," I admitted. She turned to me. "But I want to get it right." We stood there, both of us facing the reality of what we'd built. Not a fairy tale, but something more raw, more real. A family stitched together by choice and mistake and love. That weekend, we took Lily to the aquarium. It was the first time we'd done something together in weeks that didn't feel like pretending. Lily was obsessed with the jellyfish, how they pulsed and glowed and floated without a care in the world. "Look," she whispered, her face pressed against the glass. "They're dancing." Claire knelt beside her. "They are, baby. Like little stars underwater." I watched them, side by side. My daughter and the woman who chose to stay even after the truth shattered us. My heart ached, not from pain this time, but from overwhelming gratitude. But the quiet doesn't last forever. Not in stories like mine. One afternoon, Claire got a call. It was the hospital. The woman, the surrogate, had taken a turn for the worse. "She asked to see you," Claire said quietly, handing me the phone. I didn't know what to expect when I walked into that hospital room. It smelled like bleach and endings. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was gone. Her face was pale and paper-thin. She opened her eyes slowly. "Hey, stranger." I swallowed hard. "Hey. Didn't think you'd come." I almost didn't. She gave me a weak smile. "Fair." There was a long pause, and then she said, "You should know." I don't regret it. Giving her to you. I knew I wouldn't live to see her grow up. But I wanted her to have a life. I sat down at the edge of the bed. You gave us everything. And I didn't even say thank you properly. You did, she whispered. Every time you sent pictures, every time you wrote. I didn't tell Claire about the letters. She raised an eyebrow. Why not? I was afraid she'd see them as proof that I was hiding something more. That it wasn't just about the child. Was it? That stopped me cold. No, I said after a moment. I cared about you, but not like that. I loved what you gave us. But I was never in love with you. I know, she said softly. And that was enough. A tear slid down her cheek. I'm dying, Tom, she said. And I'm not scared of it, but I want you to promise me something. Anything. Tell Lily the truth one day. Not now. But one day. Let her know she was wanted. That I gave her to love. I took her hand. I promise. She smiled faintly, then closed her eyes. That was the last time I saw her. When I got home, Claire was sitting at the table with a glass of wine, her eyes red. You were gone a long time, she said quietly. I nodded. She's gone. Claire reached for my hand. I'm sorry. She asked me to tell Lily the truth someday. When she's older. Claire nodded slowly. We will. There was a long silence. Then she said something I never expected. I want us to renew our vows. I looked up. What? Not now. Maybe not for a year. But I want us to stand in front of people we love and say, we made it. We almost didn't, but we did. I want to promise you things with my eyes wide open this time. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, my throat tight, my heart full. Claire reached across the table and took my hand. We broke, she said, but maybe we can rebuild. Not what we had. Something new. Something honest. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. I believed us. That night, we lay in bed, not touching, not talking, just close. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about the woman in the hospital, about the promise I made, about the girl down the hall with my eyes and Claire's stubbornness. Families aren't always born. Sometimes they're built. Sometimes painfully. Sometimes with lies and secrets. But also with courage. And forgiveness. And the quiet decision to stay. And that's what this was now. Not perfect. But ours. There's something sacred about quiet Sunday mornings. The world slows down. Sunlight creeps through the blinds. Coffee brews in the background. And if you're lucky, really lucky, there's a sense, even if brief, that everything might be okay. That's what it felt like that morning. Lily sat at the table, drawing suns and stick-figure castles with pink markers, her little tongue peeking out in concentration. Claire stood by the stove, flipping pancakes, her robe tied loosely around her waist. Her hair was still damp from the shower. She caught me watching her and offered a small, tired smile, the kind you give when you're still figuring things out, but you're willing to try. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was something. A bridge over the wreckage. Pancakes or waffles next Sunday? Claire asked Lily. Pancakes forever, Lily declared without hesitation. Claire chuckled. Noted. I poured coffee and sat across from my daughter. What are you drawing? A family, she said. This one's me. That's Mommy. And that's you, Daddy. But I made your arms too long. I laughed. That's okay. I do have pretty long arms. She grinned. So I can reach all the snacks. Claire sat down with her plate and nodded. Sounds accurate. It was such a small moment, a silly breakfast, but it felt monumental. Like we were rebuilding something brick by brick, not the same house, maybe, but a shelter just the same. Later that day, Claire and I sat on the back porch while Lily napped. The sun was warm, the air smelled faintly of jasmine from the neighbor's yard, and I felt still. I've been thinking, Claire said, her voice soft. I turned to her, instantly alert. Her, I've been thinking, always meant something big. I want to meet her family, she said. The woman who carried Lily. If they're willing. I blinked. You sure? Claire nodded. If Lily ever has questions, I want to be able to answer them honestly. I want to understand the whole story. For her sake, and for mine. So I made some calls. Turned out, the surrogate's younger sister still lived in the area. Her name was Natalie. She'd helped care for her during her final months. When I told her who I was, she paused for a long time and then said quietly, she always hoped your wife would reach out one day. A few days later, Claire and I met Natalie at a small cafe near the city park. She looked like her sister, same deep-set eyes, same calm demeanor, but there was something sharper about her. Not cold, just guarded. I wasn't sure you'd really come, Natalie said, sipping tea. I wasn't sure either, Claire admitted. But I think I need to understand more. Natalie nodded. She was proud of Lily. She never regretted carrying her. Not for a second. But she did hope, maybe foolishly, that someday she'd get to meet her. Claire's hands trembled slightly around her cup. Did she ever think about keeping her? No, Natalie said firmly. She told me that baby wasn't hers to keep. She wasn't trying to make a family. She was trying to give one. Claire swallowed hard. I was angry at him, Natalie said, glancing at me. For a long time. I thought it was reckless, maybe even selfish. But then I saw how much he cared, the letters, the pictures. He tried to protect her from getting too involved. He made sure she knew the boundaries. Claire turned to me. You wrote her letters. I nodded. After Lily was born. Updates. Pictures. Nothing emotional. I wanted her to know her sacrifice mattered. But I didn't want her to feel attached. I wasn't hiding it from you to protect her. I was hiding it to protect you, from the guilt, the questions, the conflict. Claire closed her eyes for a moment, then looked at Natalie. Did she suffer much at the end? Natalie's voice grew quiet. She was in pain, yes. But she talked about Lily a lot. She used to say, that little girl saved me from disappearing without a trace. She wanted to mean something. Claire reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. I brought something. For you. Inside was a picture, Lily in her Halloween costume, dressed as a jellyfish, her face lit up with joy. She loved jellyfish, Claire said. Natalie smiled through tears. So did her sister. It wasn't closure, not exactly. But it was connection. A thread between two women who loved the same child in different ways. On the way home, Claire was quiet. I didn't push. When we got to the driveway, she finally spoke. She wasn't a threat to me, was she? No, I said. She was never meant to replace you. She gave Lily life. But you gave her everything after that. Claire looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, her eyes softened without sadness. She really does have your smile, she said. And your stubborn streak. And your curiosity, I added. She asks more questions than anyone I've ever met. Claire smiled faintly. We're a strange little family, aren't we? Maybe. But we're a real one. That night, after Lily went to bed, Claire pulled out a photo album. One we hadn't opened in a long time. There were pictures from when we first met, when we moved into this house, when we tried, over and over, to get pregnant. Each photo a frozen moment from a life that didn't go the way we planned. Do you think we would have made it if we never had Lily? She asked. I didn't answer right away. I think we would have tried, I said honestly. But something in me changed when she came. Not just the love I feel for her, but what I learned about myself. About what I'm willing to risk. And what I'm willing to lose. Claire looked at a picture of us from a beach trip years ago. I was sunburned. She was laughing, holding a dripping popsicle. You lied to me, she said. But you did it to save us. I did it because I was scared, I replied. Of losing you. Of losing the dream. She nodded slowly. I'm still hurt. I probably will be for a while. But I'm not angry anymore. That meant more than I could ever explain. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I want to raise her with truth. Even the hard parts. She deserves that. She does. And just like that, another crack in the wall between us began to close. Truth can be brutal. It can cut through everything you thought was solid. But sometimes, when the dust settles, you find a version of love that's deeper. Not because it's perfect, but because it survived. And as I held Claire's hand that night, the weight of everything we'd been through, everything we were building, it didn't feel like failure anymore. It felt like the start of something new. Something honest. Something whole. It's strange, the moments that define you. They're never the ones you expect, not the big decisions or dramatic speeches. It's the quiet ones. The pauses between words. The look in someone's eyes when they decide to stay. Or not. A few weeks after we met Natalie, life settled into a kind of rhythm again. Not perfect. Not how it was. But real. Claire and I started going to therapy together. At first, she was hesitant. Said she didn't want to sit in a room and talk about feelings with a stranger. But she came. And she stayed. Our therapist, Dr. Robbins, was in her 60s, with sharp eyes and a calm voice that could disarm even the most stubborn part of me. She never took sides, only asked questions that made it impossible to hide. One session, Claire sat on the couch beside me, arms folded, eyes down. Dr. Robbins asked, "Claire, what was the moment you stopped trusting him?" Claire didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, she said, "When I saw the mole." "The mole?" the therapist asked gently. Claire nodded. On Lily's shoulder. Same as his. I remembered seeing it the first time on his back when we were dating. And it hit me like lightning. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself I was imagining things. But deep down, I knew. I turned to her, my throat tight. "You didn't say anything." Claire looked at me for the first time. Because I wanted to be wrong. That stayed with me. Not just that she'd noticed, but that she carried that weight alone, in silence, waiting for the lie to either shatter or disappear. After the session, we sat in the car for a while. Neither of us started the engine. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked. "I thought I was protecting you," I said, but it sounded weak, even to me. "No," she said. "You were protecting yourself. From my anger. From having to explain." She wasn't wrong. That night, I stayed up late in Lily's room. She'd fallen asleep with a book on her chest, arms spread wide like a little starfish. I studied her face, the way her lashes brushed her cheeks, the curve of her mouth, the quiet rise and fall of her chest. She was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I almost lost her before I even had her. The next morning, Claire found me in the kitchen, pouring cereal. I looked like a ghost. "You didn't sleep," she said. "No." She sat across from me, pulled her knees up into the chair like she used to when we were younger. "I've been thinking," she said. "That's becoming a theme," I said with a tired smile. She didn't smile back. "We need to tell Lily the truth. Maybe not everything. But the real story, as much as she can understand." My chest tightened. "She's only 5. Claire nodded. "And kids understand more than we give them credit for." The idea terrified me. But I also knew she was right. So we waited until the weekend. We took her to the park, her favorite one, with the big climbing net and the swirly slide that made her laugh like crazy. After ice cream and giggles and grass-stained knees, we sat on a bench, and I took a deep breath. "Lily," I said, "can we talk to you about something important?" She looked up, mouth ringed with chocolate. "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetheart," Claire said, brushing her hair back. "This is just something we want to share with you. Something special." I fumbled the words for a moment. "You know how every family is different, right?" She nodded. "Well," I continued, "when you were born, there was a very kind woman who helped us. She carried you in her belly because mommy's body couldn't do that. But the moment you were born, you became ours. You've always been our daughter." Lily stared at me for a moment, then at Claire. "Was she nice?" she asked. Claire smiled. "She was very nice." "Did she love me?" I blinked, caught off guard. Claire reached for my hand. She loved the idea of you, I said. She wanted you to have a wonderful life. And we're so lucky that you came to us. Lily thought about that. So I had two mommies. Claire nodded slowly. In a way, yes. But I'm the one who gets to love you forever. And that seemed to satisfy her. For now. Children have a way of accepting truth without judgment. It's the adults who struggle. That night, after Lily went to bed, Claire and I sat on the porch again. The air was cool, and the stars were just beginning to peek through the navy sky. You did good today, she said. I shook my head. You did better. Claire leaned back in her chair, exhaled. You know, for a long time, I thought having a child would fix everything. That once we were parents, we'd finally feel complete. But I was wrong. My heart pounded. You don't feel complete with Lily? No, I do, she said quickly. But I realized something. Lily didn't heal us. She revealed us. That hit like a punch in the chest. She showed us who we really are, Claire continued. What we're willing to do, to hide, to break, all in the name of love. I swallowed hard. I was so desperate to make you happy. I know, she said. But real happiness doesn't come from secrets. Or shortcuts. We sat in silence for a while, letting that truth breathe between us. Finally, Claire stood up. Come to bed soon. I nodded. In a bit. When she was gone, I looked up at the stars again and whispered a quiet thank you to whatever force had brought Lily into our lives, and whatever grace had kept Claire by my side. Because the truth is, love isn't just what we feel when things are good. It's what we choose when things fall apart. And for the first time in a long time, I believed we might just make it. The last leaf fell the day we told her everything. It fluttered down from the big oak tree in our backyard, twirling like a dancer on her final bough. I remember watching it fall while Lily drew chalk rainbows on the driveway, humming the song Claire used to sing when she was scared. Something about stars and being safe. It had been 3 months since our world cracked open. 3 months since the DNA test. 3 months since Claire stood across from me, holding truth like a weapon, shaking in disbelief. But sometimes, the truth doesn't destroy. Sometimes, it clears the ground so something new can grow. Claire and I weren't the same as we were. I don't think we ever will be. But we were learning to be honest in ways we hadn't dared before. And honesty is a painful, beautiful thing. One evening, after Lily went to sleep, Claire sat beside me on the couch. The TV was on but neither of us were watching. The room was quiet, except for the distant hum of the dishwasher and the clock ticking too loudly. I want to meet her, Claire said. I blinked. Who? She looked at me calmly. The surrogate. I want to meet the woman who carried Lily. I hesitated. Are you sure that's a good idea? She nodded. I need to. I think. I need to understand her. And maybe understand you better, too. That was the thing about Claire. When she loved, it wasn't soft or easy. It was fire. Relentless. Purifying. So I called Erin. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year, not since the adoption was finalized. Our agreement had been clear, no contact unless medically necessary. She wanted it that way, and I respected her decision. But when I explained everything over the phone, that Claire knew now, that Lily knew, and that we just wanted to talk, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, okay. The meeting was set for the following Saturday. We decided on neutral ground, a little coffee shop just outside the city. Claire and I arrived first. She wore a simple navy dress and no makeup, but her presence was undeniable. Strong. Focused. A woman walking into a room with her eyes wide open. When Erin walked in, I felt time fold a little. She looked different. Older, maybe. Softer. Her hair was shorter now, and there were faint lines around her eyes. But she still had that same steadiness in the way she walked, a woman who knew who she was, and had never pretended otherwise. Claire, she said, extending a hand. Thank you for meeting me. Claire shook it. Thank you for saying yes. We sat down. I tried to stay quiet at first, let them talk. This wasn't my conversation to lead anymore. Claire was the first to speak. You don't owe me anything, she said. But I want to thank you. For Lily. For carrying her. For trusting that she would be loved. Aaron smiled faintly. She was always yours. I never thought otherwise. Claire studied her. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Why did you agree to do it? Aaron looked at her hands, then back up. I was a single mom once. My son was grown, off in the Navy. I remembered what it felt like to want something so badly it ached. When your husband approached me, when he said it was for his wife, I could see it in his eyes. He loved you. I believe that. Claire's eyes shimmered, but she blinked the tears back. He should have told me. Aaron nodded. He should have. I cleared my throat. I thought I was protecting you. But I think. I was afraid you'd say no. And then I'd have to choose between loving you and becoming a father. Claire turned to me. And you thought I wouldn't come around? I hesitated. I didn't think you could forgive me if I made that decision for you. Turns out, I didn't give you enough credit. She reached for my hand. You didn't give us enough credit. Aaron smiled gently. Lily's lucky. Some kids come into the world wanted by one. She was wanted by 3. We sat there for a while, talking. About pregnancy. About that day in the hospital. About how she kissed Lily on the forehead and whispered, "Go live your life, little one." Claire cried then. Just a little. And Aaron did too. When it was time to leave, Aaron looked at both of us and said, "Tell her I said thank you. For making this all mean something." We promised we would. Driving home, Claire reached across the console and laced her fingers through mine. She's brave, she said. She is, I agreed. I want Lily to grow up knowing she came from strong women. She already does, I said. That night, Lily climbed into our bed with her favorite stuffed giraffe, curled up between us, and whispered, "Did the lady like me?" Claire smiled. Very much. Lily yawned. Good. I like her too. Even if I don't remember. She fell asleep quickly. The kind of sleep only kids get, the kind that believes the world is safe and kind. Claire whispered, "I think I'm ready." For what? I asked. To try again. For us. Not just staying married. But being married. My heart stopped for a second. Then it beat again, louder than ever. We'll take it slow, she added. I still have anger. Still have fear. But I also have hope. And I think that's stronger. I kissed her forehead. Hope's what got me through, even when I didn't deserve it. She smiled. Well, now you have to earn it. Every single day. I will, I promised. And I meant it. Because sometimes, the stories we hide are the ones that make us who we are. Sometimes, the things we fear will break us become the very things that build something stronger. Claire and I. We still argue. We still stumble. But we're honest now. We show up for the hard parts. And Lily, she keeps growing, laughing, asking too many questions, loving too big. She's a mirror of everything we almost lost. And everything we were meant to find. The mole on her shoulder. It's not just a mark anymore. It's a reminder. Of truth. Of risk. Of the kind of love that breaks, and then rebuilds. So if you're listening to this, and you're carrying a secret, or standing at the edge of a truth you're too scared to speak, let this be your sign. Speak it. Even if your voice shakes. Even if you don't know what happens next. Because some truths hurt, yes. But some truths save us.